One of the more unique playable races in Guild Wars 2 are the Sylvari. These humanoid plant-like creatures have had an air of mystery around them since the beginning, so let's go over their lore and see what we can find. Unlike most other races, Sylvari aren't born. Instead, they grow in pods from the pale tree. The first Sylvari were born, or sprouted, in the year 1302 and are known as the Firstborn. This is 23 years before the start of your personal story in Guild Wars 2. But let's go back just a little bit, because even before a Sylvari enters the world of Tyria, there's already a lot that is happening. As mentioned before, Sylvari awaken from a pod. During this incubation time, they experience what is known as the dream. The dream is like a shared consciousness, where this soon-to-be sproutling learns about the world and gets glimpses of the past. It is also in this dream that they are taught the basics like how to read, the tenets of Ventari's tablet, and the assurance of the pale tree that she loves them. More on Ventari's tablet later, by the way. This dream can impart knowledge and sensations, but not actual experience. A Sylvari may, for example, be sprouted and know what a leg of roast would taste like without ever having tried it. It's for this reason that some Sylvari take on the role of mentor to try and guide younger Sylvari in their life and help them interpret what they have seen in the dream. Curiously enough, it was rather recently found that not all Sylvari are connected through the dream. Malik, for example, is a Sylvari that did not sprout from the pale tree. Instead, his pod was discovered on the western edge of a river that runs through the Brisbane wildlands. And thus, he has not experienced the dream, nor does he have a connection with other Sylvari or the pale tree. Stronger Sylvari are often given a goal to achieve through the dream, known as Wild Hunt, and as they awaken, this goal becomes one of their main purposes. We have mentioned her a couple of times now, but who or what is the pale tree? To answer this, we have to go back a little bit further even. Over 250 years ago, a Shining Blade warrior by name of Ronan was called to battle against the White Mantle, Mursad worshippers. Ronan, however, got separated from his troop, and in his wandering, stumbled on a cave guarded by weird plant-like creatures. Fleeing the cave, he managed to grab a seed the size of a human's fist, planning to show it to his daughter. Arriving back home, however, he found his village in ruins, destroyed by the Mursad, along with his wife and daughter. In his grief, he swore off violence and put down his sword, planting the seed on the grave of his loved ones. Not long after, he was joined by a centaur by name of Ventari. Now, humans and centaur didn't have the best of relationships, but Ronan, having sworn off violence, found that Ventari had a similar desire of wanting to live a peaceful life. So the two became friends, looking after the sprouting seed together and sharing their wisdom. The growing outpost would soon become a safe haven for people seeking peace, even after Ronan's passing. Before Ventari's passing, he etched their wisdom, guidance, and philosophies onto a tablet and laid it at the foot of the growing tree. This growing tree, now known as the Pale Tree, stands at the center of the grove where Sylvari and other creatures sprout from. This tree has an actual conscience and views the Sylvari as her children, and though she tries to steer them on the right path, she ultimately leaves them to their own life. The Omphalos chamber can be found in the highest reaches of the tree, and it is here that she manifests her avatar to easier communicate with both her children and visitors. Friendly reminder, by the way, that I have an immersive playthrough of Guild Wars 2 right here on my channel, which you can check out. When the Firstborn Sylvari sprouted, they found Ventari's tablet at the base of their mother tree, most of them taking these tenets as the words of a prophet. Most of them. More on this little detail later. It can be said that, in general, their entire culture is influenced by these words and the knowledge passed on to them during their dream. With the awakening of the Secondborn, the Firstborn took on the role of older sibling, doing their best to guide these Secondborn and imparting what knowledge they had mustered in those few years already. Though even with the guidance of the dream and the tenets in Ventari's tablet, most Sylvari still lack a certain wisdom of the world, leading them to be rather forward in their communication. What most races would keep hushed or discuss in closed circles, a Sylvari may just announce out loud. They take life at face value and are usually honest and direct, with emotions and tact being concepts that may still confuse them. A trait that nearly all Sylvari share, however, is their near-endless curiosity for the world, and a lot of them venture out. With Sylvari being born from the Pale Tree, it could be theorized that all of them are siblings, though they don't feel that way. Most of them view each other as distant relatives, with the exception of Sylvari that have shared the same pod or dream. In these circumstances, it often leads to those Sylvari becoming lovers even, feeling a strong connection to one another. Gender plays no role in romance for Sylvari, and love is something spiritual and eternal. And a fun little fact as well is that Sylvari do not choose their names, nor are they given them. They wake up and instinctually know them. There is a darker side to the dream that Sylvari experience called the nightmare. This is where painful memories gather the most, and was first experienced by Fauline and Keith. While Fauline was heavily influenced by this, she didn't turn evil immediately, though she did go from being one of the brightest Firstborn to being cruel and obsessive. It wasn't before Catherine, another of the Firstborn, brought Fauline into the Nightmare Court that she turned truly evil. The Nightmare Court aims to unshackle the Sylvari from the teachings of Ventari's tablet, claiming that it is a strain on their growth and railroads their entire race into following just that one path, while the Nightmare would urge them to live their own life. Now this doesn't sound too bad, theoretically, were it not that Sylvari that followed the Nightmare become a twisted and cruel version of themselves, beating and torturing those they kidnap into submission. They even tried to make their own version of the Pale Tree called the Nightmare Tree, but were thwarted by adventurers. During the Heart of Thorn storyline, we learn that Sylvari are in fact minions of the elder dragon Mordremoth, or were supposed to be, if not for the protection of the Pale Tree. In the events leading up to the expansion, we try to put a stop to Scarlet Briar, a Sylvari whom we later learn has become corrupted by the elder dragon. Another that was corrupted is Erin, who comes to play a very important role in the story, indirectly, but still. Erin was more susceptible to the corruption as he was one of the Soundless, a group of Sylvari that chose to cut themselves off from the protection of the Pale Tree through rigorous meditation, while Scarlet's story is an entirely different one. But I would suggest playing through the game to hear about that. I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, make sure to leave a like or comment on what you would want a video on next. As always though, have fun and happy adventuring, my friends.